What's going on, everybody? Paul Liston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm here with the man Chacho Boy Green Digital, baby. And this episode's brought to you by our friends over at Boxstrap Syracuse. And just when you thought the prices couldn't get any lower, they're doing a beginning of year model closeout sale where they are selling things at even bigger discount prices. So, folks, make sure you check out our friends over, again, at Boxstrap Syracuse. I'm doing it solo today. Screw the man-child. It's the Boy Green Show with Boy Green Digital now, baby. But I won't be doing it completely alone. We got a special guest to talk all things Buffalo Bills. It's a playoff week. I don't even remember what that feels like anymore, but maybe Anthony can refresh my memory. Let's bring him in. Anthony Prohaska of Cover One.
Thank you for having me. That's I'm sorry your playoff experience as a Jets fan has been limited, to say, as of late.
Limited is one word to use, that's for sure. Let's get into this. We have Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville-Jaguars. First off, we talked about this for many weeks, about the path. What were the possibilities? So we're going to avoid talking about Week 18 because I don't even remember what happened in Week 18. So we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. But the opponent you got, you get the Jacksonville Jaguars. What were your initial reactions when that was the opponent that the Bills ended up with?
I kind of felt like this was the most logical opponent based on how things were going to go in Week 18. I know we're kind of not speaking on Week 18. I thought when the Texans put their backups in, I thought the Colts had a good shot to beat them. And I think they would have if Alec Pierce didn't get ejected for like one of the most ridiculous ref bumps of all time. Like the ref like bumps into him more than Pierce bumps into the ref. And it was the lightest of touches and they ejected him. Crazy. But as that was happening, I was like, oh, the Bills could get the 5. And then I was sitting there going, oh, that means they get Baltimore or Pittsburgh. And I really thought Baltimore was going to beat Pittsburgh. But then they didn't. But going into the weekend, I thought based on how everything was going to shake out, it looked like the Bills were probably going to get the 6 because the Chargers are resting Herbert and their guys. I figured the Jags were going to win. The Pats would win. The Bills win. Texans win. So you're sitting there, the 3 facing the 6. So I kind of prepared for this matchup already mentally. And then seeing it come to fruition was kind of more just like, okay, more than anything. It's not the matchup that I wanted the most or wanted the least. It's somewhere in the middle, closer towards like not wanting to face them. I really respect what their defense does. They're a fun defense schematically. They've got some dudes on that side of the ball. Trevor Lawrence has been playing good ball as their quarterback. And he, for as much maligned as he is, he's still got like top 5 quarterback in the league moments in him. He pulls off some throws in some games where you're like, oh, that's the guy that was like that high-rated prospect coming out of high school and led Clemson and why he was the number 1 pick. And so and I do also respect what Liam Cohen has him doing. So it was one where I saw the matchup and kind of expected it. Wasn't completely floored, but wasn't completely excited for it. There's not really a lot you can avoid come playoff time, considering most teams who make the playoffs are good in some form or fashion.
Is there any extra juice for this matchup? Because, the last time Buffalo visited Jacksonville for a playoff game, I believe there's when you guys ended the playoff drought, that barn burner 10-3 game in Jacksonville against those Jaguars. So do you have revenge on the mind?
I guess maybe a little bit. I think that game was, at least for me, and I know for so many Bills fans, nobody expected that Bills team to really go deep. It was more just like they broke the drought, and it was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I think what's more frustrating is that they really could have won that game, like very easily. And what's even crazier is that Jags team should have gone to the Super Bowl. They beat the Bills 10-3.
Oh, yeah.
They housed the Steelers the next week in Pittsburgh. And then they go to New England and they're up late. And I think it's like a 3rd and 17 backed up in their own end. And Brady completes one to Edelman in typical Patriots fashion. And they go down and score. Like the Jags were a hair away. Blake Bortles and the Jags were a hair away from going to that Super Bowl.
And here's this random play during the game. I don't know why all of a sudden this hit me, and I haven't thought about this in 10 years or something, or however long it's been, is that I remember the Patriots fumbled the ball. The Jaguar defender picked it up and ran it back to the house. The officials came in late and said, the play was dead. And then so the touchdown they would have had that would have sealed it, which would have sent the Jaguars to the Super Bowl. And then all kinds of things could happen. That goes back. Patriots get it in some fluky fashion. Stop me if you've heard the Patriots getting a beneficial officiating call. Oh, yeah.
Who would have thought? Yeah, so that Jags team, like, realistically could have gone to the Super Bowl. And then they play the Patriots, I think, in, like, week 3 of the next regular season, and they pound them in Jacksonville. I think it goes even back a little further. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show. One of my early football memories of watching the Bills is I think it's the 96 playoffs. It was a Saturday game, 12:30. It's like towards the end of like the Jim Kelly era, and the Bills host the Jags. 12:30 kickoff, and the Jags, led by Natron Means, one of the coolest and baddest looking running backs ever, they beat the Bills in Buffalo. And I remember like that day. That was when like I was still little and like everybody was still, as like an adult, was like, oh, the Bills are still the Bills. Like they're a couple from 4 straight Super Bowls. There's this expansion team. I even remember like we were always like locked in front of the TV ready for football. But like that day we were doing some running around like errands Saturday morning, almost like the family was just like, we'll get down to the game at the last minute. They're playing the Jags and they'll be fine. And then the Jags, I remember everybody was like, what the hell just happened? Like, what's going on? And so I'm even taking it back further. Like I remember one of my first early memories is the Jags beating the Bills in the playoffs in Buffalo. I think that was actually Jim Kelly's last game.
Wow.
Well, Bill. Okay. And then things kind of went down from there. And then you get the Music City Miracle a couple of years later. So that's one that's on my mind more than 2017. Although they could have won that game. I think it's more just like this is a team, even though the times are completely different. You're 0-2 against this team in the playoffs. You lost to them a couple years ago in London. You lost to them a couple years before that in Jacksonville, like a horrible Brian Daboll game. Like they've had some really bad luck against the Jags in recent years. Had a good victory against them in Josh Allen's rookie year, though. Some nice completions to Robert Foster in that game. But yeah, I think it's more just a little bit of like some historical trauma between the two franchises. If you're a Bills fan, maybe.
In the first couple of games of a super wild card weekend, which again, I'm not sure if they still call it that, but I'll still try to champion that as much as I can. The couple of Saturday playoff games and the first Sunday playoff game, which is Buffalo, the road teams are the favorites, according to Vegas, for a couple of those games in a row, which I find interesting. Bills being a favorite, is that the correct call? My Vegas insider, Anthony Prohaska.
Oh, man, I don't know. I think given...
Come on, you do know.
I think given their playoff pedigree, even though they haven't won a Super Bowl, and having Josh Allen, and I think just where they are as a team and being battle-tested and playoff-tested, I think it's completely understandable for them to kind of be the favorite. I also would have understood it if they played down the other foot, right? The Jags are running hot. They've looked good. They're the home team. They've had some good wins, but they've had some, like, schedule, ease concerns, but so have the Bills. I could have seen it going either way, but I think at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, a lot of even the odds makers attach things to quarterbacks and kind of who's done it and who hasn't. And I think the Bills have experience on their side from a playoff standpoint, and then they have Josh Allen. So I do think it makes sense, but it's no surprise that the line is close.
What is your confidence level as a Bills fan heading into this playoff game where it's do or die? It's one game. You have a bad day at the office, you're out. You're gone. There's no best of 3, no best of 5, no best of 7. It's one game. There's a winner. There's a loser. What's the confidence level for you, Anthony Prohaska? I won't even ask you to represent Bills Mafia or everybody else. You, Anthony Prohaska, and that body of yours, what is the confidence level?
Real quick, I do want to go back to I looked it up because it was driving me nuts.
Okay, give it to me.
The Jags were up 20-10. Pats get the ball with like 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Brady gets sacked on the first play by Marcel Darius, former Bills legend.
Yeah, there you go. Of course.
Yeah, incomplete pass to Chris Hogan. It's 3rd and 18 from the Patriots' own 25 with 10 minutes, 49 seconds left. He hits Danny Amendola for 21 yards on 3rd and 18 and a first down. They go down, they score a touchdown, make it 2017, and then they win 24-20. That was in my brain. I was like, I need the specifics. For me, my confidence level, I don't know, like, you know me. I'm extremely paranoid. I am confident in nothing. I am secure in nothing. It does not matter. Like, I mean, sports related. Like, I will never, growing up as a Bills fan and as a Red Sox fan, even though the Sox have a bunch of World Series now in my lifetime, I am not secure in anything. I'm also a Barcelona fan. I've had my heart ripped out, with games with the series against Roma and the Champions League and Liverpool last year against Inter Milan in the Champions League semis. Like, I'm secure in nothing.
Wow, you're a glutton for punishment, aren't you?
Dude,
wow.
It's bad. I mean, I'm a Sabres fan. The no goal against the Stars a couple years later, where John Leclerc, I think, puts the puck in through a hole in the net, and it still counts. Like, I'm secure in nothing. I feel good in nothing when it comes to sports. And I also think the Jags are a good team. I don't think they're an insurmountable team. I think it's very realistic that the Bills go in and beat this Jags team. But I also think it's very realistic that the Jags could win. And I think you can say that honestly for most of the games in the AFC. If you can make a case legitimately, and it's not even just saying it to like make people tune into the games. If you told me the Broncos make the Super Bowl, I'd buy it. If you told me the Chargers make the Super Bowl, I'd buy it, even though their offensive line is jacked up. You can make the case for legitimately anyone 1-7, any of these matchups. It's really just, I hate giving this line because it's used so much now. It really just is like an any given Sunday type of deal. And if you go in and you don't play good football for a half or a quarter, you turn the ball over, the game script doesn't go your way, any team in these playoffs on the AFC, in the AFC is capable of beating the other one. There's a multitude of combinations or possibilities that can happen. And for the Bills, I'm confident in this Bills team, but I also recognize their vulnerabilities and their deficiencies and how they play against the Jags, or like their strengths and weaknesses and how they each mitigate or kind of maximize or magnify each. So I am confident in this Bills team, but if you also told me that they lose this game by a field goal, or if they lose it by 20, I could buy it. Like, that's just how it is. There's so many possibilities.
Okay, this is a narrative that I didn't know that this is pressing a button for Bills fans. I don't know if it's quite the Brandon Bean radio yelling about wide receivers level, but it might be close. There has been a narrative that now that there are several high-profile quarterbacks out of the AFC, so to your point that, anyone could win, maybe people would less say that if Patrick Mahomes was in or Joe Burrow or any of these other ones were in there. But Patrick Mahomes out, Lamar Jackson out, Joe Burrow's out. There's been a narrative. I've seen the topic line at ESPN. Well, if Josh Allen doesn't win it this year, then, oh boy, he's never going to win it. And I've seen that as apparently incensed Bills fans, that's the stupidest thing they've ever heard. It's a team sport, all this jazz. But I serve it to you because I understand where that came from on the surface, that the Bills haven't won it as a franchise, which you brought up earlier. Thank you for bringing that up. And that, Josh Allen is this reigning MVP, and he's got all these accolades and the hot actress wife, and he's got this great life for him that's going great. But the missing crown, the missing infinity stone is winning the Super Bowl for Buffalo, and what that would mean for the community, city, and everything. And now all these demons of yesterday's past are not in these playoffs. And that if they don't win it, when are they ever going to win it? So I've seen it's pissed off Bills fans. So I'll test it out with you and see if that does it for you, Anthony. What do you make of that narrative that's being heavily talked about?
I think from a national perspective, it is the most pressure on Allen that he's had in the playoffs, because from a national perspective, everybody attaches, for better or for worse, like national media and pundits like that, they and channels and programs and everything and brands, they always attach everything to the quarterback. Like, that's why quarterback wins are a stat for them. Like, oh, this quarterback is 12-1. I hate quarterback wins as a stat. Like, that's the stupidest thing. Like, you have so much attached to you as a quarterback, as any individual player. Like, attributing any individual person to like the wins and losses is ridiculous. Like, even as a pitcher, I don't necessarily love it, but I understand it a lot more than a quarterback. But that's the way it is. Like, quarterbacks drive the narratives, they drive the stories. That's what it is for anyone and everything, year in and year out. People probably talking about Bills and Jags this week. It's probably Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. I don't imagine a lot of the major brands are like, hey, Anthony Campanile is doing some awesome stuff with the Jags defense, and he's taken different pieces from all the different stops that he's had as a coach and all his different learnings, and he's combined them into this big gumbo pot, and he wields all these different philosophies at the right times and the right moments. Like, nobody's talking about that. They're just talking about Josh Allen and probably Trevor Lawrence. So I do think nationally there is a ton of pressure on him for exactly the reasons everyone's talking about. Like, and like you alluded to, like, the ghosts of Christmas past are not there. You've lost to Burrow in the playoffs. He's not there. You've lost to Mahomes in the playoffs. He's not there. You've gotten the better of Lamar and the Ravens, but they're not there. And so everybody looks around at all these other quarterbacks, and even somebody who a lot of them love, like Drake May, he's unproven, and the Pats team still has holes. So I do think nationally, it's a ton of pressure on Josh Allen. Internally, or at least for me, I think this team does have several deficiencies that could hinder them very realistically from even winning a playoff game. Again, if you told me the Bills run the table and go to the Super Bowl, I'm buying that. If you told me they get housed by the Jags or they lose in the wild card and they're out, I'm buying that too. Like, they've been a really up and down type of team, and the vulnerabilities and deficiencies they have on offense and defense can hurt you and kill you real fast against good teams, and especially in the playoffs. I do find it interesting that Bills fans get so upset with like talking about how much the pressure is on Allen. because it's funny, like at the end of the day, no matter what goes wrong with the Bills, like Bills fans are always like, well, they got Josh Allen, so that's all that matters. And then when everybody wants to talk about, well, there's a ton of pressure on Josh Allen to carry the team, everybody's like, well, there's a whole other team with him. It's like, you can't do that. You can't play both sides. You can't always just talk about how you have Josh Allen. And then when everybody says all this pressure's on Josh Allen, you can't be like, well, there's a whole other team with him. I just think it's wrong on both sides. But I do think nationally, there is a lot of pressure on Allen, and it's understandable because the other big name quarterbacks are gone. All the other Dragons, all the other MVP winners or candidates or guys that have made noise are gone. So it's a whole bunch of unprovens. And maybe we're sitting here 5 years from now and it's like, man, we really shouldn't have underestimated Trevor Lawrence, who's now the best quarterback in the league, or, Justin Herbert ascended, or CJ Stroud turned back around, or whatever the hell. I also think the last little piece tied into it too is I understand the quarterback argument, but every year is different, right? Just because those quarterbacks aren't in there don't mean that there aren't really good teams that are in these playoffs. And I think that gets overshadowed a little bit, but I think from both sides, it's annoying. But hey, everybody needs to draw clicks and engagement and views. So people say stuff and say stuff.
Speaking of engagement, I didn't plan on talking about this, but because I saw it at a drive-by on social media, I saw that you and it looked like a Jacksonville Jaguars person. It looked like a Jaguars person was questioning whether or not your film study, and then your name recognition, Anthony, is that like everyone went, "You're questioning Anthony Prohaska's film study? You don't know nothing." And I was like, "Damn, that Anthony's got such a reputation that people in the street started saying, Rudy slapping their jersey on the table." Boom, boom, boom for Anthony Prohaska. I'm like, holy! I mean, I've known you for a handful of years, and I enjoy our conversations and our friendship and everything else. But I was like, holy crap! I didn't realize that you came rolling in with some extra company, Anthony Prohaska. So I got into it with some sort of a Jacksonville Jaguars person on social media questioning your film study. What the heck?
I don't. Yeah, I commented and saw it kind of got like a life of its own after I commented. Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I tweeted a stat. I've been digging into a lot of Jags tape since last week. Yeah, I had Cody Alexander who runs Match Quarters, who's a tremendous defensive mind, but I had him on my show last week just to talk about like defensive trends and the defensive meta and offensive trends and where we're going in football. Time is a flat circle, what is old is new, all that kind of stuff, where we're going for body types, positional archetypes, all that stuff, through a bit of a Bills lens. And in that conversation, we organically started talking about the Jags and what they were doing. And so that prompted me thinking that the Bills were going to play them a bit. I started digging into Jags tape at the back end of last week and then to start this week. And so I was tweeting out a bunch of Jags tape and posting a bunch of Jags tape on Blue Sky as well, because I post evenly on each. And I was also posting like metrics and things. And I think I posted something about, I think it was how much zone coverage the Jags play, like the fourth most zone in the league at like 78%. And then I posted what Allen's EPA and success rate are against zone, which is like really high, like 50% success rate and like second in EPA per play against zone or something like that. And I think this dude like quote tweeted it and was like, oh, a lot of Bills fans are just throwing out numbers without watching the tape. And it seemed directed towards me. So I just commented and said,
well, a quote tweet would seemingly indicate that. Yeah.
Correct. And so I just responded. I don't even remember really what I said. I think I just said, like, I've actually posted a bunch of Jags tape today and sporadically throughout the whole season. And that was it. And then I think I woke up to, like that comment had a bunch of likes and there were a bunch of comments to that guy being like, wow, you barked up the wrong tree, or you don't know who you talk to. And then like, I see him like, he gave the weak answer of like, oh, I wasn't directing this towards him. I just meant in general. And then everybody was like, but you quote tweeted him and made like a vague, it seemed pretty direct. And I agree in that, which is why I commented. But yeah, it was pretty funny to kind of see that. And he did some backtracking and some circles and loops. But honestly, it was kind of cool to see like so many people kind of come to my defense. But I was not expecting that. I just comment. I wanted to just be like, bro, look at my page. I've got a ton of tape. Like, I don't know why you chose me, but I don't know. Tough times. The playoffs, man. They turn everybody against each other. It's intense.
He chose the wrong fighter. That's for sure. He chose the wrong battle there. There's no question about it. Now I want to squeeze in one. I was going to call it scandalous. It's not scandalous, but it's just one like way. What the And then we'll take a timeout. And then I really want to get into the X's and O's and all the stuff of Bills Jags to finish us off here for this game. But the one, whoa, wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man, it's this. Okay. I'm not speaking this into the universe. This isn't me. I'm just I'm just making a comment. Okay. That's all. Again, I want to get into all the.
This seems like a trap. This seems like a trap, but go ahead.
No trap. If the Bills happen to lose, we're not going there today. If the Bills happen to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and go 1-0, which you even admitted, said, hey, that's a possibility. You told me this happened, it could happen.
Absolutely.
Would the Bills fire Sean McDermott and go after John Harbaugh and say, hey, buddy, we've got this Josh Allen guy that all our fans talk about. Josh Allen, this team, we've maxed out with Sean McDermott, John Harbaugh time, baby, especially with all the heavy rumors that Miami's interest and stuff like that. You'd block them from Harbaugh and you could get Harbaugh and all this other stuff. Is that at all in the ethos? Is that just ridiculous nonsense? Could it be possible? Would it be something you'd be interested in? Again, we're going to spend the entire second half of this after the timeout talking about Bills, Jags breakdown and all that. But because it's hot and it's right now, and maybe if the Bills keep winning, that's not even a possibility because Harbaugh just gets whatever other job is available. Even if the Bills would have thought about it, it doesn't matter anymore. So now feels like perhaps the only time to talk about it unless something happens next week. So your thoughts are what, Anthony Braska?
From an organization standpoint, I don't think Sean McDermott's going anywhere. Like if
no matter what.
I think he's pretty safe. They would have to get completely housed. And this ties into what I've always said about McDermott. Like it would have, for him to get fired, they would not only have to lose, but it would have to show like if they'd have to lose or fall apart in a way that shows like he's completely lost the team. Or the culture's completely gone. Like there has to be something that shows nobody's buying him or buying what he's selling anymore, and he's a problem. So I don't necessarily think that would happen in this game, but they would have to get housed, and then we'd have to also see those other signs. I think for better or for worse, he's good for a little while, to say the least. For me personally, I've always been able to go like either way. I'm on the fence with McDermott. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's more of like, I trust him to take a program and turn it around and change the culture and raise the floor and raise the ceiling and turn you around to get you to what you need to be. I think the jury's still out on whether or not he's like a big game coach that can get it done in the big moments. But to play devil's advocate, everybody said that about Andy Reid for forever, and now Andy Reid is like arguably the greatest coach of all time because of so all it takes is just one little win, one little flip of the switch. I think what's a little more damning for McDermott for most Bills fans is when they think about the failures in the playoffs, a lot of it comes down to the defense. Even though there's been injuries or whatever's happened, like it's always been like he's supposed to be a defensive guy. You know, how come the defense fails? Josh Allen's amazing and is perfect, even though he hasn't been perfect in the playoffs, despite how good the numbers are. So everybody kind of piles on with him for that. But for me, I'm on the fence. Like if you told me he's going tomorrow, okay. If you told me he's staying, okay. I just don't always think the grass is greener, and it's tough to find another guy. Harbaugh, I've liked. Ed Reed's my favorite player of all time, so I rooted for the Ravens a lot every time the Bills were done, which was usually by like week 4 every year when the writing was on the wall. I like Harbaugh. I think he's a good coach. Things ended bad, obviously, in Baltimore. But I don't know if changing McDermott out for Harbaugh is like the best way to go about it. Like if I'm going to trade out Sean McDermott, I'd rather try and do the Andy Reid model of things, not to use him as an example, or even like Zach Taylor or Sean McVay, where like I get an offensive minded head coach who's going to run the offense and run Allen. And then I get some kind of defensive coordinator that I can pair him with that's a vet that can run that entire side of the ball. Or I'd rather flip it. Like if I'm bringing a defensive-minded coach, that's fine. I want him to run the defense completely, and then I need an offensive mind to run that side of the ball completely. So I would like that kind of relationship or role built into the next coaching decision. Or honestly, this one too, if they could get like, I'm not opposed to, Mike McDaniel getting fired in Miami. And if Joe Brady leaves, give me Mike McDaniel to the Bills right now. And I'm letting Mike McDaniel run the entire side of the offense. And I want Sean McDermott to run the defense. That's my dream for the Bills right now. You keep McDermott, you give me Mike McDaniel. But as far as a Bills organization perspective, I think he's pretty secure, and things would really have to blow up and erode very quickly and or in a dramatic fashion for him to get the boot after the wild card round, even if they lose.
Yeah, and let's hope they don't lose. You
want them to lose. Look at your face and your hands.
Of course, I want them to lose. Screw the Buffalo Bills. But
that's so mean. The Bills have never done anything to you.
Did you see Week 18? What do you mean? They've
Who
done
cares?
a lot of
your
things.
Season's done anyway. If anything, we helped you get a better draft pick.
How dare you?
Did you want to win?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Did you want to be the Giants who keep winning these meaningless games and forcing themselves out of higher picks? Did you wanted to win? We helped you.
Thank you. God bless.
You're welcome.
Happy New Year. It's probably a little late for that here on January 8th, but nonetheless, Happy New Year. All right, let's take a quick time out, then I promise we'll dive into all the Bills-Jags. I've got questions. Anthony has answers. A real quick word from our friends over at Backdrop Syracuse.
Considering that we sleep nearly 1/3 of our lives, buying the right mattress is essential. At Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofa Outlet, you'll get a unique experience, one that saves you 30 to 70% off retail prices on top-of-the-line mattresses like Sapphire Sleep. At Box Drop, you'll schedule a mattress fitting appointment and get one-on-one service directly with Paul, the owner. No middleman. Family-owned, huge savings, no-pressure sales designed to save you time and money. And now Box Drop Syracuse has sectional sofas and love seats as well, with prices designed to fit your budget. Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofas. Set up your appointment today at boxdropsyracuse.com.
Anthony Prohaska, you're a stat guy. You hear that stat at the beginning of that commercial? 1/3 of our lives we spend sleeping, which
I'm not gonna lie,
seems like something pretty
I hear
important.
that every time that the ad runs. I'm always like, wow, 1/3? That's crazy, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, start counting up the numbers, people. It makes sense. So you should invest. And again, now's a better time than any at Boxdrop Syracuse. They're doing their beginning of year model closeout sale. No reasonable offer will be refused. So head on down, reach out to them again. Boxdrop Syracuse, baby. You can call or text them at 315-600-1600. It's just that easy. And folks, again, no reasonable offer refused. All right, let's get into it here. This is critically important to me as a Jets team that somehow didn't have a single interception throughout the entire season.
That's crazy. That's one, like, not to get off track. That to me is like, there's certain records that I think are going to be so hard to ever break. Like Cal Ripken's, like, consecutive games played.
Yeah,
Joe DiMaggio's consecutive games with a hit. Like somebody hitting 400 in baseball. A lot of these I keep rattling off for baseball. Not getting one interception is like, I'm not just saying, like, that's crazy. Like,
no, it is
like a lucky bounce. Like, it's nuts.
And here's this. I was talking about it on my morning Jet show with my old man who called in, and because he was giving me all kinds of crap. He calls into my show all the time. He was giving me all kinds of crap because he said, interceptions is and this is actually going to be my question. So it's funny how this all worked out to you in a second. But he says, interceptions are all the talent and scheme. It's players making plays and great schematics. I'm like, sure, you know what? There is a possibility of that. But I said, how about this? And I gave him this example of me and him literally watching a game on our couches 12 years ago on a Sunday Night Football game. Why I suddenly remember that, I have no idea. He's a diehard Cowboys fan. And I said, and I brought up this whole example of the Cowboys were playing the Bears. Tony Romo looked over at Dez Bryant before the play and gave him a signal. And they both seem to be on the same page. Tony Romo hikes the ball, throws it over to Dez, and Dez Bryant kept going down the field. And then he throws it, and a Bears defender's like, thanks, boom, intercepts it, takes it to the house. And everyone that was watching, just a normal, casual football fan, no offense to those fans, said, Tony Romo, what an idiot. You couldn't have water if he fell out of a boat. What a stupid thing. But what Tony Romo looked to Dez Bryant to do was to say, hey, I don't want you to run a go anymore. I want you to run a stop. And then he went to throw the stop. Dez Bryant thought he heard the wrong signal, pick six. So to take it back to the Jets, right, that a team didn't make a mistake. They didn't look and say, hey, slant instead of go, post instead of flag, curl instead of this, and that somehow, some way, a Jet defender did just get lucky and go, holy crap, thank you, and just intercept it and do anything with. That is bonkers. So sure, there is scheme, there is talent, right? Ed Reed, you brought up your favorite player. I loved Ed Reed coming out. We were blessed with our ages being very close to the same, Anthony. We had Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu doing crazy ass stuff back there. We're like, holy crap, look at these guys just making plays. So sure, players make plays and schematics, right? You want Mike McDaniel as this dream scenario on offense. He's just such a good schematics guy that you'd love to have him on the offensive side of the ball and just go to town. That's his sole focus. So sure, there is all that, but there's just crazy stuff that is like hard to explain. So we go from the Jets to the anti-Jets, which are the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. The Jacksonville Jaguars have, I have it here, 22 interceptions this season. That's one off the league lead from this season. I turn it to you, Anthony. Are these guys just a bunch of lucky sons of bitches and they just have a four-leaf clover shoved up a certain orifice on their body? Or is that scheme related? What does the tail of the tape tell you? Are they just a lucky team and an oblong shaped football seems to bounce in their way a lot this year from a turnover perspective? Or is it this Jaguars team has a certain sauce with that certain defensive coordinator you talked about that some people aren't giving credit to?
I do think it is tied to who they are and what they do. Like you mentioned the interceptions. So 22 interceptions, second most in the league this year. And then overall, they have 31 takeaways, which is also second most on the year. They're behind the Bears for both of those. And I think it's tied into just what they are defensively. They're very multiple from a coverage standpoint, just from a philosophy standpoint. You'll see them kind of bring the house and attack everybody, like very similar to kind of like what Brian Flores does in Minnesota. And, their DC, Anthony Campanile, some time with him. And then he'll just sit back and kind of play match stuff and cover 8, cover 6 stuff on the back end, like Vic Fangio, another guy like who he learned under. He's got some cool coverage spins and stuff that he had in his time with Jeff Hafley, who's the Packers defensive coordinator. You just get a lot back there. And I think a lot of teams, and this is what I think is cool about the Jags D and about Campanile, like it's hard to do a lot of stuff, right? Like usually when you do a lot of stuff, something falls through the cracks, or it's one of those, like we're doing a lot of stuff and we're hoping something sticks. They do a lot of stuff and they're like above average to good at all of it. And so it's easy to change the pre to post snap picture on a quarterback and they get fooled and they blitz. Their blitzes, they don't generate an overwhelming amount of pressure from a rate standpoint with their 4 regular, or even from a blitz standpoint. I think they're 17th in pressure rate when they blitz, but they get takeaways when they blitz, and they get takeaways in general because it's everything tied together. It's what they're doing with their front combined with the coverages on the back end and the multiplicity, and everything is just tied to changing that pre to post snap picture. And then they've got some good athletes at linebacker with Alua Khan and Devin Lloyd. They've got some dudes in the secondary. Jordan Lewis made plays all year. Jerry Jones stepped in and had 2 great interceptions from the tape I watched, one against the Colts, one against the Texans. They're just a well-coached unit, and I think they're in the right places at the right times. And then schematically, they're very multiple. They change the pre to post snap picture, and they kind of cause that chaos, and they benefit from it. I do think there is some sort of like luck and semblance to randomness that comes from turnovers, right? You can have like, a defensive lineman throws his hands up in the air and bats the pass, and it goes straight up into the air and falls into another guy, and you get an interception, which again is another thing. Like, I can't believe that didn't even happen for the Jets. That's nuts. But a lot of their takeaways are driven from like, the quarterback thinks he has this, but he's wrong, and they take it and they do this. So I do think a lot of it is based on how they're coached and where they end up.
Yeah, there's no question. One of the most underrated players in the league, and high five to you too, pal.
Camera going out of I'm moving too much in my conversation. The camera's going out of focus, driving me insane.
Oh no, that's okay. I just thought you wanted a virtual high five, which again, we all need more of those in our life. So to myself, but
I'm surprised they didn't just do that in Stranger Things, and then that's how the Mind Flayer died. Like, yeah, high five. Oh yeah, friendship. Oh no, the connection severed. Oh no. Sorry.
The power of friendship for my guy Devin Lloyd. He's one of the most underrated players in the league. I got to interview him pre-draft. We had a connection with the USAA, so it was cool to get to talk to him for an interview. And I was like, "Please come to the Jets." That didn't happen, of course. And it's interesting though that now he's gonna be this free agent, which is a more future conversation. And they made some decisions with the 5th-year option. That's going to be a lot of fun. But he's just a super uber talented player, and he's just one of many. You mentioned a lot on the Jaguars defense schematically, which is a lot of fun. How did the Bills match up schematically with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Offensive chess match versus the Jacksonville defense.
It's interesting. The Jags are a good run defense. They tackle very well. You've got, even though Eric Armstead isn't like necessarily what he was when he was with the Niners, he's still an effective player on the interior. You've got Devon Hamilton, who's a body eater and a space eater. The other Josh Allen, who is now Josh Hines Allen in Jacksonville, him and Trayvon Walker just off the edge are athletic and physical, and they mash. Josh Hines Allen, is also like a really good pass rusher and just an effective guy. And then they even got some fine rotational guys too. But I think it starts with just how sound they are as a tackling team, how good they are in their fits. And I do think the second level matters a lot for them. Aluakon and Devin Lloyd, what I think is interesting with them is we're in this age of football where the run game is becoming more important, and you're seeing heavier personnel, multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, sometimes multiple tight ends and multiple running backs. And offenses are doing that, to kind of dictate personnel defensively. And the Jags just have two linebackers right now that are built to play the run and play the pass. Like Aluakon and Devin Lloyd are both like 6'2", 6'3", 235 pounds ish. Like they can come up down and play downhill and bang against the run. They're athletic enough to still play in coverage. So I think that helps them a lot too. But I do think they can be had schematically if you can gum up the blitz, if you can ID it, if you can protect it, if you can stay calm and just take what they give you. Schematically, the Bills, the receiver core is going to be an issue, right? Like we know they don't have a lot from a winning outside standpoint and, bucket getters at wide receiver. A lot of their receiver production comes from, the RPO bubbles or the package play bubbles to Khalil Shakir. But like I said, the Jags are a really good tackling team. They'll close down on that stuff in a hurry. A lot of the Bills' receiver production comes from yards after catch. It's hard to get yards after catch against a defense that tackles really well, like the Jags do. So I think like most matchups for the Bills this year, it starts with the run. The Bills have a very good run game. The Jags have a good run defense. We'll see which one of those gives, if at all. And then for the Bills, it's going to be something they've struggled with a bit at times, which is when they get into known passing situations, teams have been able to game up their protections, confuse Allen, attack the protection rules for the Bills on offense, and kind of put them into a bind. So if the Bills get into those known passing situations, the Jags really get to start to kind of dip into that bag of creativity with their blitzes and their coverage structures and combining them. And then it gets into a world where you're relying very much on Josh Allen being right pre to post snap, getting to his hots, IDing what he needs to ID, keying what he needs to key, and his receiving options seeing the same thing. And that just gets muddy, and that gets messy, and that gets tricky. But I do think the Bills have an advantage with Dalton Kincaid. He should be a bit healthier again this week going into this game. I think you try to do what you do with him every week, which is, even though Aluakon and Lloyd are sick, get him matched up on a linebacker, get him up on Wingard or matched up on Wingard or Eric Murray, their two safeties, or on the nickel. Like, I don't care. Like, Dalton Kincaid is a mismatch creator. He's a guy who should be able to take advantage of a Jags defense that's given up a bunch of production to tight ends this year. And a lot of that is tied to how they operate schematically in the middle of the field, what they ask of their linebackers, and how multiple they are and what they do. This should be a game where Kincaid is productive, and it needs to be for this Bills pass game. Kincaid needs to have like an 8 to 10 catches, 70 to 110 yards receiving. He needs to be the tip of the spear for the pass attack, and then the Bills need to make the run game work on top of it.
Anthony, I have a quick take here. What's your thoughts? The wrong Josh Allen changed their name.
Oh, wow. First off, rude. Second of all, no, I don't think there's a right answer there. If anyone wants to change their name, change their name. I do enjoy it because now it's easier to search for Josh Hines Allen. And I was getting annoyed for all those years of like Josh Allen versus Josh Allen, ha ha ha, especially when the Bills will play the Jags.
Yeah,
but
Josh Allen sacked Josh Allen. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
Josh. Oh, that's funny. They have the same name, haha. But no, I don't know. No comment. I guess I don't know who's the right person to change their name.
There you go. Okay,
the
first punt of today's show. Final one here. Pro__ant, and it's this. How afraid are you of the Jacksonville running game versus the Bills run defense?
Oh, great question. The Bills run defense is questionable at best. It's been better lately, but we'll see how sustainable that is. The Jags run game is really tapered off and even kind of fallen off a cliff. And even watching their tape like down the stretch, it's ugly. What's funny is the three concepts that the Jags run the most, outside zone, duo, and inside zone. The Bills aren't really good against those, but the Jags also aren't good running those, even though those are the three things they run the most. So it's kind of like, I always forget what's the opposite of, I think. So it's like the, unstoppable force versus the immovable object. It's the opposite. It's the opposite here. It's like the stoppable force versus the movable object. Like we'll just see which one gives Neither is ideal. The Jags run game is ugly. I think the Bills have corrected some stuff from a run defense standpoint. My bigger concern with the run game is it's twofold. I think on the whole, the Bills will be fine. But Travis Etienne, he's so fast. And even like Tootin can move a little bit as well. Jushel can move. Like, if you're off in your fit or your angle or you miss a tackle, their dudes can make you pay in a hurry, especially Etienne. Like, if he breaks one tackle in space, he can be gone. And he's that type of guy where, like, he's got 7 carries for 17 yards. And then all of a sudden he's got 8 carries for 77 yards because he just busted off a 60-yarder. And against a Bills team that is the worst this year in yards after contact per rush, they've been a poor tackling team. They've been a poor run fit team. They've been poor at the tackle point. They've been poor getting off blocks, deconstructing blocks, angles to the ball carrier. That can be worrisome. So all it takes is a quick second to change your fortune with the run game with Etienne and the backs they got there. So that's my biggest concern with it. And the other, Trevor Lawrence's legs, like he's healthy. He's an athlete. I would like to see, if I'm the Jags, like I want them to lean into more like the zone read, QB keeper stuff. I think a successful thing for Trevor Lawrence in this game, not including scrambles, is having like 8 design runs for him in this game. Like, I'm leaning into some of the zone read stuff. I'm making them have to defend on the backside. And I think you could get them early. I think Trevor Lawrence could have like a first 3 carries for like 30 yards or 35 yards because he'll keep it and the Bills aren't expecting it or they haven't necessarily game planned it. And then you start to work that tendency in going forward. So it's definitely both sides of the ball, right, is where that's going to matter the most, that run game. Because if the Bills can't run the ball, they're kind of dead in the water. And if the Jags can run the ball, everything snowballs for the Bills as an entire team from a game script and game flow perspective. But yeah, I'm very interested to see kind of which one gives a little on that side of the ball.
Well, Anthony, good luck this weekend. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Good luck, and hopefully next week there's more playoff football to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully. I appreciate that. Thank you as always for having me. And yeah, let me know if you watch it or if you want to go back and watch one of the worst series finales ever in the history of TV for Stranger Things. You go ahead. I know you're a big fan of that. You go do that. But yeah, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll let you know which I preferred. And
there's so much condescending tone like in your voice right now. I'm like, yeah, good luck. Wish you all the best. It's very much like a Rumpelstiltskin-esque, like, yeah, let's make a deal. I totally want to help you. It's very much like, wait a minute. I don't like how this sounds.
Same energy. But, hey, we'll see what happens. All right. Games are going to be played this weekend and a show will happen next week. And we'll see what the results of this weekend indicate the tone of next week's show, perhaps.
I hate Thank you so much. Yeah, the body language, the tone, it's all just so, it was very much like a trap. I don't feel comfortable at all.
God bless everyone. Like the video, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time. Take care.